all nations, and give ear, all inhabitants of the earth. The trumpet is sounding in Zion, and the alarm is echoing across the land. The headlines of our day are not mere politics, they are prophecy fulfilled before our eyes. The gathering storm between Israel and her enemies, the fragile cries for peace in the Middle East, and the alliances forming among nations are not accidents of history. They are the very signs foretold by the prophet Joel. The day of the Lord is drawing near. The nations are assembling. The earth trembles, and the people of God must awaken. As we watch the headlines unfold, the rising tensions between Iran and Israel, the fragile calls for peace among nations, and the gathering of alliances in the Middle East, we are reminded that these are not merely political struggles. They are prophetic tremors, signs pointing us toward the day of the Lord. The prophet Joel foresaw such days. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. Joel 2:1. Joel chapter 3 declares that the nations will be gathered into the valley of Jehoshaphat, where the Lord himself will judge them. Today, we see the Arab League and surrounding nations aligning, with whispers of European support. This coalition mirrors Joel's vision of multitudes assembling against Israel. Israel will suffer great loss, its land scorched, its people pressed hard. But the word of God assures us that the Lord will not forsake his covenant people. Joel 2 speaks of a great army, strong and without number, sweeping across the land like fire, consuming the fields. Yet, it is in this darkest hour that the Lord rises in power. Israel will beat back her enemies, not by her own strength, but by the hand of the Almighty. The sanctified church, the bride of Christ, will stand alongside the Lord in that day. Together, they will engage the enemy, and none will remain. The nations that rise against Israel will be shattered, and the land will be delivered. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel. Joel 3:16. The signs of our time are undeniable. Iran prepares its rockets for war against Israel, while Turkey expands its influence over fallen Arab nations, Libya, Iraq, Syria, and now seeks a hand in Gaza. This is not mere geopolitics, it is prophecy unfolding. Turkey, a NATO ally, positions itself to lead a coalition that will drag the rest of the world into conflict with Israel. Joel foresaw this gathering. Let the nations be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Joel 3:12. Iran's war preparations, its rockets and military ambitions are but sparks against the eternal flame of God's promise. Israel, pressed by enemies on every side, will transform into a military complex, manufacturing its own armaments and standing ready. Yet the true strength of Israel is not in weapons, but in the covenant of the Lord. What Iran and the Arab nations wish against Israel will fall upon their own heads. Their curse will become their inheritance. For the word of the Lord is unshakable. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. Genesis 12:3. Joel chapter 2 speaks of a great and terrible day, when nations swarm like locusts, and the land mourns. Yet it is in this hour that the Lord himself rises. Israel will suffer loss, but none of her enemies will remain. The sanctified church will stand with the Lord, and together they will engage the enemy until the valley of Jehoshaphat is filled with the fallen. Israel will stand forever. not because of her righteousness, but because of the promise of God. The covenant cannot be broken. The nations may rage, but the Lord will roar out of Zion, and his word will prevail. So, as the nations lift their voices and cry, "Death to Israel, death to America, who stands with Israel," the very curse they desire for Israel will return upon their own heads and upon their children. What they plot against God's covenant people becomes their inheritance. We see this truth unfolding even now. In Gaza, they shouted, "Death to Israel," yet it is they who perish. The nations cried, "Death to Israel," and their lands have crumbled. Iraq has not recovered. Syria has fallen. Libya lies in ruins. Every nation that raised its voice against Israel has tasted destruction. Beloved, these are not distant prophecies. They are unfolding before our eyes. The day of the Lord is near. The return of Christ is at hand. Subscribe to our channel for more prophetic messages and join us at fimispace.com, where faith, fellowship, and preparation for the Lord's return unite. Together, let us watch, pray, and be ready.